Hello and welcome to another episode of Sustainability in Your Ear, the Earth911 Podcast. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe, and as you know, we talk to innovators across the country who are introducing new sustainability ideas. And today we're joined by Jeremy Walters, who's the Community Relations Manager for Republic Services, which is one of the biggest waste collection companies in the United States. Welcome, Jeremy. Thanks for joining the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Mitch.
Now, you're in Las Vegas, and you handle outreach for a variety of sustainability and recycling programs. So we wanted to invite you here today to talk about the new wave of iPhones and Samsung Note phones that are coming out, because it's going to drive a wave of replacement. And what's the responsible way to get to handle an iPhone or any electronic device as you start to think about replacing it?
Well, we want to encourage people to do the responsible thing, and it's a funny topic to talk about because I can't even keep up myself with how fast these phones and new pieces of tech are coming out, and so that's a question that we get a lot from different folks around town or around the country: is what do I do with my old e-waste? And there's a couple different options to utilize. Now, we want to think about sustainability all encompassing, right? The reduce, reuse, and then the recycle aspect. So first and foremost, I always encourage people, do I need the latest and greatest phone? Is my phone still working functional? If it is, keep it, pass it down to family, friends. Keeping it out of the waste stream is number one priority. But the problem with these phones, and as a lot of tech is employing now, they have lithium batteries, and these batteries are very volatile, and we want to make sure that we're doing the recycling responsibly. We got to make sure that when these electronic items are going to be recycled, they're going through a sustainable process. There's a lot of data that's involved with our electronics nowadays, and so from that aspect, we want to make sure that these devices are wiped clear. And specifically with Republic Services, we have what we call Blue Guard, and it's this security measure and sustainability measure that people can have that peace of mind that they know that we will handle this waste properly. So in terms of the security, if you're talking about a hard drive or even cell phones nowadays, we do a lot of shopping, we do a lot of monetary exchanges through our phones. There's a lot of information that's potentially held on these phones, and while we may be deleting or wiping a phone on our end, doing a system refresh, surprisingly, a lot of data actually is still housed on these electronics devices. And when we send them off to our 7 different facilities throughout the United States, we will wipe these a minimum of 7 times. So that's Department of Defense standards to ensure that there is no data left on these devices. No data breach can happen. Now, if these things can be refurbished, then we will refurbish electronics devices and ultimately put them back out in markets. We really want to encourage people to leave them outside of the recycling bin because that does pose safety risks to employees.
Well, let's talk about that, because I know that lithium batteries can actually cause explosions when compressed in the waste processing cycle. So workers can get hurt and fires can start. Talk about what you do with a lithium battery device.
So specifically when it comes to lithium battery containing electronics, that's where we want to really make sure that these are going to the proper recycling facilities, because in a regular curbside recycling program, you got to imagine all the other materials, your plastic bottles, paper, metal cans, it's all mixed together. We've got a lot of moving parts, a lot of metal moving parts that are jarring around, moving very quickly. And as you mentioned, these lithium batteries, when they come in contact with high pressure or something that's bouncing them around quite a bit, they have an explosion hazard. There was a really great article on the Washington Post that actually had some videos and visuals to what can happen if these end up in the wrong stream, specifically your curbside recycling program. You got to imagine that if something's got an explosion hazard, potential to catch fire, the recycling center is probably one of the worst places for it to be. Like I mentioned, all your paper products, that's a huge fuel source. The fire potential in a recycling center is just massive. So when we make sure that these lithium battery containing electronics go to a specific electronics recycling facility, they're going to dismantle this entire device and pull out all the components that can be recycled. And these lithium batteries will remain separate and safe so they don't get caught in machinery and explode and potentially hurt somebody.
So a consumer who wants to recycle a phone or any e-waste with Republic, you don't put it in the curbside. How do you get it to Republic? Should it be in a bag? What do you do to make sure that it gets to Republic and Republic is aware of the fact it needs to be handled by a specialist?
So we have a few different options. If we're talking simply a resident that's got one or two devices, we have some really convenient mail-back programs where you can call up your local provider, your local Republic provider, and we can ship you a pre-paid postage box where you can pack up your iPad, your phone, your computer, whatever it may be that you want to recycle, and you can send it to us via mail. If you're on the commercial side of things, let's say you're a small business or even a large business that's got an abundance of gadgets, you can actually do a few different things. We can offer still the mail-back program. We can do pack up and pick up. So there's a couple different options that you can do. Now, some of our service providers, if we're talking about cell phones specifically, some of our service providers actually have options within their stores as well, where you can drop off these old gadgets. You can sometimes have rebate programs where they'll give you an incentive to do their trade-in. You may get a discount on your bill or a credit towards your bill. I know specifically, I actually have phone service with Verizon Wireless. Verizon Wireless has a pretty cool program that if your device is still functioning, you can drop it off and they will refurbish it for domestic violence victims for emergency calls. If the device itself is not functioning, they take it and they will recycle it. But the different service providers have some options as well. The peace of mind aspect is what we really try to offer with our electronics recycling program. Okay. Depending on, the volume of the material that you have or how specific you want your bundle of electronics to be tracked, when you send the materials to our recycling facilities through the Blue Guard process, we actually will offer you a specific barcode so you can track your devices. Let's say if you had a big bulk amount. Yeah, you can get down to the specific level that if you want to track a specific serial number, you can actually register it through the Blue Guard program and track that specific device from the beginning to the end of the recycling process, which is pretty cool. It gives you a lot of peace of mind.
That really, the responsible recycling is so important to people, and that feedback, that's fantastic. That's a great way to help people get that sense of confidence. And frankly, in this environment, because of the Chinese waste ban, a lot of people are losing confidence in recycling. By giving that follow-up, that accountability, you're really doing something special. Now, and of course, you're offsetting the cost of doing all that by recovering materials and so forth. That's the whole point of recycling. So in a lot of ways, it sounds to me, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, is Republic really mining the old economy now as much as simply taking away our waste? Is that sort of the evolution of the business?
In terms of talking about getting back to like the basics of recycling, or?
Do you look at all of the potential waste out there as containing value? And are you trying to find it and connect it with the recyclers who can turn it into real money?
Yeah, I would say it's actually a pretty fine balancing act, because there are certain commodities that, especially here in Las Vegas, we will accept and move to recyclers regardless of their value. It's not necessarily to make money on it. We want to do the responsible thing. At the end of the day, this is a private business and they do have to sustain their operations, but we want to find as many outlets for the waste as possible. Now, where it becomes that balancing act is that we need to perfect the basic recycling stream to begin with. Our, traditional plastic containers, metal cans, and the glass jars and bottles where accepted, and then the different paper products. We see a lot of times nowadays, people are becoming a little bit more environmentally conscious. They want to do the right thing. They just need the tools and the education to do it correctly. We see oftentimes a lot of aspirational or wishful recyclers, depending on what you want to call it. And they're throwing things in the recycling bin, hoping that we will capture it and recycle it. But we need to understand the potential implications of throwing the wrong materials in the bin, because if we throw the wrong materials in the bin, depending on their composition, they could potentially ruin other recyclables or make the recycling process difficult or inefficient, and we're not capturing as much as we can. So I'd say where Republic currently is at is that we're really trying to get people to understand the fundamentals of recycling, go back to the basics, and make sure that we're doing recycling right to begin with. Once we get recycling perfected, then we can expand.
And you've got a great site that you just recently launched called recyclingsimplified.com. And it's essentially a lot of instructional information about orienting first to the what to recycle to deal with whether or not you're being wishful or aspirational in your recycling. Tell us where this idea came from and how's it going?
Yeah, Recycling Simplified is a great tool. You will find that when you visit the website, you can start from the basics and work your way to some of the expert tips. And the whole idea behind this is exactly what it says, Recycling Simplified. We want it to be basic and easy to understand because we want everybody to recycle. But like I said, a lot of people want to do it right. They just need some of the tools to kind of perfect or modify their maybe waste stream at home, become a little bit more of a conscious consumer and understand that there are certain things that, yes, can be recycled, but don't necessarily belong in the curbside recycling bin. And so when you visit this website, the first thing that you'll find is a pretty good sized list of some of the common contaminants that we get in the recycle bin, explaining what they are, why they don't belong in the recycle bin, and then obviously giving you examples of what should be in your recycle bin, some examples of how your recycle bin should look. And then once you start feeling like you're getting a little bit more intuitive with the basic ideas, you can click on the Expert Tips tab. There's some great videos on there, both in English and Spanish, to really give you that next level recycling tool so you can become the best recycler possible.
And the site is really convenient and easy to use. You've got a list of knots to put in on the front page. A lot of sites make you search. In fact, strangely enough, so does Earth911. But this is really, it's wonderfully simple and complete in terms of an initial orientation. Now, as people become more successful recyclers, do you expect them to start to ask for more recycling services? Is this the way that we get consumers to go from being enthusiastic to actually acting on every opportunity to recycle?
One would hope so. I would imagine that as people start becoming more aware of the recycling process and the right way to do it, that it would encourage them to not necessarily demand more recycling, but maybe make them a little bit more conscientious in the consumer sense that when they're going to the grocery store, they're going to the businesses that they frequent, they maybe look for the more sustainable options, something that they're going to buy they know will come in recyclable packaging or little to no packaging. So the idea behind it is that, again, we want to perfect that basic stream of recycling before we start getting into the more complex items, but really understanding that consumers have a lot of influence in what people make in terms of products. People vote with their dollar, and what we want people to understand is that you are one person, but you are one more person towards the cause. If you think that you're one person and you don't make a difference, then you don't make a difference. But if you think I'm one more adding to the solution, then that's the step in the right direction.
Well, it's great to see Republic Services supporting that and helping consumers make those decisions. Jeremy, thanks very much for joining us on Earth911 Sustainability in Your Ear. We hope you'll come back and talk with us again.
Oh, thank you for having me. I look forward to it anytime.
This is Sustainability in Your Ear. I'm Mitch Ratcliffe. Thanks for listening.